one, go.
Hello, hello. Ignacy and Stephen, Portal Games.
And this is Stephen Bonacore, the Podfather of Gaming. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 167, and we're recording it on October 14th, 2020. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And it's a little known fact that when I was president of Stronghold Games, we sued Tom Vassell for his wearing of red, especially that red fedora he wears. We trademarked that color red. I called it Stronghold Obnoxious Red. Well, this week I called Tom and I told him that I officially authorize him. I allow him to wear red again. It's the least I can do since he has, made me the co-host of Board Game Breakfast and all that. Don't you agree, Ignacy? I'm being a nice guy to him finally.
You're so kind, and everybody in the industry knows that you're one of the kindest, and is another example of that. So yes, absolutely.
Kindest, craziest, they kind of like, all together. Anyway, I'm again in such a great mood. When am I not, right? You know why, Ignacy? Because I get to speak to you twice in 1 week. We just recorded episode 166 2 days ago, right? On Monday, where you made fun of me that saying that I was so happy it's a Monday and you're so sad because you got to work a whole week now. And I don't. But now we get to talk again for this episode 167. It's wonderful.
Yes, I'm also so excited because the weather in Poland in this fall season, raining all the day, cold, wind, it's terrible. It's freaking terrible. So talking to somebody from Florida, it makes me so happy.
And the weather here is, of course, perfect. In the mid to upper 80s, which I can't translate that into Celsius. It's something like 25 or something like that, I guess, Celsius. Beautiful here. Will always be. I'm going in the pool later. By the way, I have my bathing suit on right now. You want to see my bathing suit? I can stand up and show it to you if you like.
No.
Okay, I won't. But I do. I actually have a bathing suit on. I'm going in the pool a little while. Anyway, silliness aside, what's happening this week at Portal Games?
Yes, I have a news that is, of course, good, of course, exciting, but it's a follow-up to the bad news we were discussing for the past few weeks.
Yeah.
That is me losing access to some of the social media. So today at Portal Games, we decided to open new channels to communicate with our fans. So I'd like to invite everybody to follow us on Twitter at Portal Games US, on Instagram at Portal Games US, and we are also changing our Facebook profile to Portal Games US. So I'm in the same situation like Podfather a couple of weeks ago, starting from the scratch and starting to build our audience back. Hopefully, in upcoming months, weeks, we will recover after this loss of our audience. So if you were following us, if you are a fan of Portal Games, if you want to know what's happening at the company, find us on Twitter, find us on Instagram at Portal Games US. And this will be our official handle, and it will be separate from my private accounts that got hacked, and we already discussed this many times. So this is a good news, of course. As I said, it's a follow-up for the bad situation, but hopefully in the long run, it's a good news.
Right. So for this week and this week only, the Podfather of Gaming social media has more followers and more likes and more anything than Portal Games. But it's going to be this week only because everybody's coming back and going to like all of your stuff. Of course, because who would not want to stay abreast of what's happening at Portal Games?
Thank you for that. So this is what's happening. A serious decision about as our listeners know. I waited this 9 weeks already to recover, and nothing happened. So we are starting from zero, and we'll see how fast we can recover. For the brag of the week, no, nothing to brag yet. So I'm waiting for new prizes, new awards for me. Hey, even the smallest blog, just give me an award and you will be covered here in the Board Games Insider. The special section. So
nothing like begging for awards. I love it. We have no pride here, right? We throw pride out the window. Just give us an award. We'll cover it.
I have my segment. I need to feel it. For pre-orders, of course, this is the last moment of pre-orders. I think this is like literally last moment because these are the products that we are releasing right after Essence. So Robinson Crusoe Treasure Chest debuting this upcoming week at Spiel Digital. Robinson Crusoe Treasure Chest is a collection of all the mini expansions for Robinson Crusoe. So definitely need to check it out because in pre-order we have a special offer with these additional pieces. So check out our website and you will learn more. And Narushima Hex Year of the Moloch, it will last till November, so we have a couple of more days left. And what's happening at headquarters? What's happening? Spiel Digital. Spiel Digital. We discussed last episode with Stephen. It's hard to believe SN is so close without this all preparations, without all this stress about logistics, all these containers being stuck at the customs, and all these adventures that we have every single year. This year, this COVID year, this terrible year, at least we didn't have any stress with the shipment of the product to the conventions and all these adventures about the Gen Con shipments and the SN shipments. We could do a whole podcast only with these stories from that. So this year, nothing like that, just preparation of the live streams for you guys, special videos. So if you are going to Spiel Digital, check out our booth at Spiel Digital, and you will find a ton of content with me and my team recording for you gameplays, contests, all this kind of jazz. So Spiel Digital, the most important things happening these days at Portal Games. And if I may share, because we probably will discuss Spiel Digital right after Spiel Digital, but
Sure.
before Spiel Digital, let me just say it extremely clear and loud. Contact from SN Spiel Digital with the publishers, top-notch professional. We get the newsletters every single week with all the information about how to use the platform, all the tutorials, all the PDF files, everything extremely nice explained. As I must said it very, very clearly. So far, the best prepared convention in terms of the virtual conventions. We will see if the audience will come. We will see what we'll say after the convention. But from the preparation to the convention, top-notch, absolutely respect to all people involved in this.
I was getting ready for you to start complaining because you normally start complaining about things.
Yes,
So
no,
that's
this time I'm super serious. That's like the
good.
amount of PDF documents we received to describe every single part of the show, every business launch, prototype area, tabletop tables, like all the features of the convention explained to the publisher and explain how publisher can take I don't know if it's a good wording, take advantage, like use of this feature. So
Yep.
once again, extremely well documented program, and of course we are preparing, we are building our booth. We will see what will happen in a couple of days only.
Excellent. Excellent. Is it on me now? All right.
Yes, it's now about people who are not working but going to the pool every single day. I cannot imagine.
Can't
This is
even
crazy.
imagine it. Well, you're invited, Ignacy. Just not yet, COVID, but whenever, soon. Okay, what's happening over here with the Podfather of Gaming? First of all, this is the challenge/invite. And I know I've been talking about my escape room in Fort Myers, Florida. Everybody across the world can play in my escape room in the virtual implementation that we've done. So maybe it's too much money for you. Only $20 a person. Maybe it is, but I would like to ask everybody who hears this, just go over to the website, hit the website, just look at it. And then maybe you say, well, that's pretty cool. And you tell your friend and they check it out instead. So that's my challenge and / invite of the week. Please go over to escaperoomadventures.com and check out the 5 different rooms. 1, 2, 3, 4 different rooms that we have virtually now: a pirate room, a 1980s themed room, a magician room, and an alien themed room. And maybe tell your friends about it. escaperoomadventures.com. Just go check it out. I think you'll be impressed with the presentations, at least just by looking at the website that we have put together for you. And of course, I'm going to continue to invite people to watch the other things that I'm doing in my life that they can watch, like the Happy Hour with the Podfather twice a week, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern and Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, where we hang out, we talk about what's going on in our lives, we make fun of each other a little bit. It's just a fun little thing. If you go over to the Facebook page, Podfather Gaming, you can find the link to join us. Please do. Just come in, just watch. Or if you really just shy about that, just watch it on the YouTube channel when I post it within a day or two afterwards. Thursday at 10 p.m., Dice Tower's Board Game Breakfast. Love doing this with Tom and Z. Tune in for more board game news centered really on the games coming out. So that's a little bit different than what we do here. Plus the game show where I'm constantly beating Tom and Z, which is always a good thing.
It's constantly now. That's nice.
Constantly beating them. My record is very, very high in beating those guys there, and we have those really interesting contributor segments between our live segments. So please go check that out on the Dice Tower YouTube channel, Board Game Breakfast, where I am co-hosting. News of the week under the heading of crazy things you can do during COVID. Paula and I have rented out an entire movie theater for this coming Saturday. And the Dice Tower gang and us are going to the movies to see Tenet. So we'll post some pictures and maybe some videos of us being there. But so this is right now in the US, a lot of these like movie theater chains are doing this where you can, because of social distance, they want to get you they want to get you back in. B, they need money, right? Badly. They really need money. They were closed down for 6 months. So you can rent the entire theater. You can pick a current movie. You can pick like all these like way out movies. You can even bring your own DVD or Blu-ray and they'll play it. And there's a major theaters. So we're going to the Cinemark 20. So the 20 theater complex down in Davie, Florida. And we're going to be watching Tenet socially distanced. There's only 20 people in this theater that holds like 200 people. And it's just a cool thing to do. So you'll get to see some videos and some stuff like that I post. I mean, isn't that neat? It's just a neat idea, I thought. So I wanted to do it for the Dice Tower guys. And because, I just need things to do. It's a little crazy here.
The more you talk about your retirement, the more I think about getting there very, very soon.
South Florida invites you, Ignacy, anytime you like to come. And that's it for now. I think we'll just move directly on and not talk about retirement things, but let's go to the event deck. All right. So the event deck where we talk about the hardcore industry news. The first thing is that the Origins Awards were announced. Excuse me. And let me just read a little bit. The Academy of Adventure Game Arts and Design announced the winners of the 46th Annual Origins Awards. The winners are traditionally announced at the gala ceremony on Saturday night of the Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio, which of course was canceled this year due to COVID-19. And there are 11 categories currently. I won't mention everyone because there's, 11, but the best board game of the year, best board game of the year is Tiny Towns by AEG. And best card game was Point Salad by AEG. So they've done very well here. Kudos to AEG. Best family game, The Quacks of Quedlinburg by North Star Games, which we talked about last week a little bit. So nice to see real kind of games being put up, here. Other than in the past, the Origins Awards were suspect. Let's just use that word. They weren't. It was like a popularity contest where like people were kind of almost stuffing the ballot box. People would be giving you ballots to say, go, hey, here you go. I filled this out for you. Go put this into the ballot box. And like, it was being done by like just popular vote, but they have people like who are, go out, they play all the games and then they make votes, like industry kind of people. So it's not the most important awards. Of course, we know what the most important awards are, right? The Spiel des Jahres, but nice to see that some real games have won.
I'm not sure if this is not too much of Ignacy being skeptical and Slavic, but today I was not too much Slavic yet. So let me just comment on this that way.
Sure.
If you check the link from the press release about the Origins Award nominees from March, there are different games were nominated compared to the games that won. And this is quite confusing.
Really? Like,
yes.
That is very interesting. So you're looking at the board game category, and you were nominated. Pret-a-Porter was nominated.
That's why I checked, because I remember that we discussed Origins Awards, and even though I was honored with the nomination, I was very thankful. We discussed that these choices are very, very weird and awkward. And now, 6 months later, the games are awarded, but they are different games.
Ignacy, this is like investigative reporting that we've got going on here. Like we have just uncovered a major scandal, maybe. No, that is so odd. Yeah, so the game of the board game of the year and game of the year was not even part of the board game category. The card game that we just announced is not part of that.
No.
Are oh Ignacy, I'm making myself a note here. This is big. This is big news.
Sorry for stealing the thunder from Origins, but something is always crazy with these awards.
I'm going to reach out to Gamma. Nominations versus awards. What happened? Oh, and I'm going to tell Tom Vassell about this because he's going to flip out. He's very well.
Yes, you may quote to them that you talked with the designer that was nominated. Ignacy was nominated for Pret-a-Porter, and he was very disappointed.
So I do notice that some games are definitely correct. Like this was a bad one. Historical game of the year was Pandemic: Fall of Rome. That's just a dumb idea for a story. I disagree completely with giving Pandemic historical.
Games are GMT games. This is like
that didn't make sense.
War games, yeah.
But at least it was in the category of the nominations, and it did win. Okay. All right, Ignacy, this is great. Oh, okay. We're gonna uncover a controversy here. I love it. No idea how this happened, but we'll be back to you guys after we get some more information, probably for our next podcast.
And if there's no next episode, that means that we got shut down and something really happened. And there was a story behind that.
The game mafia came after us and shut us down. All right. TriCon 2020, another take on virtual conventions. And it says in my show notes, Ignacy approves. Well, why don't you tell us about this one, Ignacy? Because I have no idea about Castle TriCon 2020.
So I absolutely want to say, hey guys, check out let's Google it, TriCon 2020, so you can see the pictures, so you can see what we are talking about. That
TriCon, TriCon. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the convention that probably nobody heard about because it was a convention done by 3 companies. So I guess the fans of these companies knew about that, but there was no coverage in the Board Game Geek news, no coverage on the ICVW news. So it was like probably small convention, but I checked out the report from this convention and it looked amazing because they decided to go for the road that you as an attendee were like playing MMO virtual game. Like you had your avatar, you were going through the fantasy land, and this land, like in role-playing games, MMO, you were able to visit different buildings, and in these buildings there were tables, and you were seeing avatars of other players playing the game. So you were like playing a video game, online video game, and visiting different parts of this convention. It looked amazing, very fun, very interesting idea.
It really looks like you're in an MMO because you had your own avatar. He's got clothes on that maybe you were able to design.
Look around, you see what things are in the city, where you can go. Like you are feeling like at the sci-fi convention, and I want to give the props to the idea. I think that it needs more like a message sent out to the fans that something like that happened, and maybe it is an interesting road for the upcoming conventions like that.
Love the idea. It really looks cool. So I highly recommend people Google Castle TriCon 2020 and check out. We'll even quote this website that you put here, goplaylisten.com, goplaylisten.com. And Chris Marling talks about that. So Chris, good job on reporting on this. You're the only person who did, but beautiful pictures and things like that he put up here. So fantastic. Very good.
So this news has also Stephen approves?
Very. I approve it as well. Okay, so in more hiring news in the industry, and I love talking about hiring news, especially with good people and good companies, Renegade Games adds Elisa Teague as senior producer leading RPGs. Renegade Game Studios has added Elisa Teague, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, as senior producer heading up the company's expanding line of role-playing games. The company is staffing for a larger RPG pipeline as it adds licenses. And it references Renegade's licensing of more Hasbro brands for games. And it has announced plans for a Power Rangers RPG, which, by the way, does sound cool, even though I wasn't a Power Rangers guy. Power Rangers in general is a kind of a cool concept. So maybe as an adult thing, you can even be very interesting. Teague has worked on over 100 games in her 20 plus years in the tabletop games business, including the Geek Out line, Betrayal at House on the Hill, Widow's Walk, one of my favorites, Betrayal at House on the Hill, Talisman, Kingdom Hearts Edition, and the upcoming D&D Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So she's got some great storytelling cred here. Makes me very happy. I'm all about story. Ignacy, you're all about story and theme. This is great. So congratulations to both Renegade Game Studios and Elisa Teague. I met her on, I believe, the Dice Tower cruise early this year. Lovely person.
I met Elisa at the Gen Con. We were both guests for the seminar about creating puzzles in games. So I had the honor and pleasure to be with her during the seminar for the 1 hour. And I was stunned, impressed with all the things she was talking about, the designing puzzles in role-playing games. And our listeners know that I am role-playing gamers for the past 30 years or so. So I wrote myself many role-playing games. I write myself many expansions for role-playing games, and yet I was absolutely blown away by the things that she was talking about. She has a huge knowledge about designing modules and puzzles in role-playing games. So great hire. All the best for her and for Renegade Games. And if we can add one more comment, Renegade Games started releasing role-playing games like 2 years ago. I think there was a Kids on the Bikes was the first role-playing game.
Yep.
And we clearly see that in this industry, you would say totally dominated by Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, the big two titles that fight for the being the best-selling game. Still, there is a room for the all other amazing different role-playing games, and the plan for Renegade Games to go into this market, to go with the new role-playing games, was a right choice. If they are hiring, that means that it works, right? And there is demand for that.
Absolutely. And that brings up another topic about Renegade Games moving into a market. This one to me is very odd, but interesting because I love hearing about this kind of stuff. Renegade to produce 1,000 piece puzzles of EC covers with art by Frazetta, the great Frazetta, Wood, and Feldenstein. Renegade Games has been granted license by William M. Gaines Agent Incorporated to produce jigsaw puzzles, including comic art from EC Comics, which includes work by some of the premier artists ever to work in the medium. Puzzles featuring cover art from Weird Science and Weird Science Fantasy by master artists Frank Frazetta, Wally Wood, and Al Feldstein are promised. A line of 1,000 piece puzzles will be released beginning the spring of 2021. Finished puzzles will measure roughly 26 inches by 19 inches, a scale larger than the original comics or the oversized Russ Cochran hardcover volumes. Fans are being offered the opportunity to vote on their favorite to be included in the first wave of EC comic puzzles. So, I mean, again, I love hearing hobby game publishers, mainstream good ones, moving into different directions, RPGs and comic books. This one, and I love hearing about this, is a new place also, but this one is very strange to me going into puzzles. So Renegade must see that they can put these things in game stores right next to their games or on, presented in a certain way that will make people interested in buying puzzles as well. I mean, certainly I haven't done a puzzle since I was a child. Paula does puzzles, but she does them electronically. She on her iPad, she does puzzles all the time, which is interesting. But I don't see a need to do them.
I saw Renegade Games releasing puzzles earlier. It was not a huge news, so we were not covering that. But it is not the first time they are doing puzzles. They were already released puzzles with the covers from their games, and it was on one hand weird to me because, of course, like you, I don't do puzzles. But then they released this as a, I guess, experiment, as a test. I guess they sold out with these puzzles, so they decided to let's sign some deals for some famous artists, some famous covers, and they are following up. We also didn't cover that, but we saw it in the news, but it was not our industry. But in the March-May period, the COVID times, when we were reporting that tabletop games are selling very, very well, the reports, especially from the big chain stores, were talking about the puzzles as well. That people were buying puzzles like crazy.
Right.
back then. So now seeing that COVID is not going anywhere soon, I guess still the sales of the puzzles are quite good. And so interesting
Yeah.
move from Renegade Games. Everything makes sense here.
Yeah, that's an interesting correlation because we talked about before that Amazon was selling puzzles like
Yep,
crazy.
yep.
So Renegade
Here is a
pushing into
follow-up.
that market, right? I mean, COVID's here for a while. These particular ones that we're mentioning here won't be released until the spring of 2021. Hopefully, things will at least begin to get better by then. But interesting. I like it. Puzzles, odd. Well, let's see how it works out. This is such an interesting one, in my opinion. Asmodee is starting a new movement. I'm putting air quotes here. You can watch me on the YouTube channel. Starting a new movement, not a brand, not one of their imprints, but sort of an imprint, called Unbox Now. And in fact, this is all going to be featured at unboxnow.com. Very proud to share our new lifestyle movement at Asmodee built around our key brands. With Unbox Now, we are launching a label for consumers to discover accessible board games and help them uh, live exceptional moments with their family and friends. With games like Ticket to Ride, Catan, and Dobble, and many more to come, our goal is for Unbox Now to act as a token of modernity. What the? A token of modernity, confidence, and simplicity towards non-specialist consumers. That's not even a word, I don't think, but maybe it is. We want to make it easier than ever to discover and play the best experience there is, social entertainment. Unbox Now launches in the US this year and gradually in all of the 20 countries where Asmodee is present. I looked at this, and it seems like what they're doing is they're just using this as a channel, a means of showing off their lightest games, the gateway and even lower than gateway to bring people, family gamers, very, very focused on families and bringing kids and families into gaming. But this has not been covered by anybody, by the way. We talked about it on Board Game Breakfast, and we're talking about it here. Nobody has mentioned this. It wasn't on ICV2 or anything like that. So it's interesting to see that haven't pushed it yet, but they put up their website and they started talking about it.
I checked this, and it was very interesting that, as you said, they are focusing on 3 titles: Ticket to Ride, Catan, and this press release you have is a double for American customers. It is Spotted. In America, you call it Spotted. Spotted.
Oh,
the game.
Okay, Spotted, yeah. Right.
So Ticket to Ride, Catan, Spotted. And my reading this, and of course I may be wrong. We are podcasts, so we share our opinions, and sometimes we are right, sometimes we are wrong. But for an average person in America, you tell them that you play board games, and they say, "Oh, like Monopoly." So in mass market, the perception of the board game is Monopoly, sure. Scrabble, maybe apples to apples. Like this is these 3 titles. Yeah. And my reading this Unbox Now movement is to try to bring to the table Monopoly, Scrabble, apples to apples as easy as Ticket to Ride, Catan, and Spotted. Like they want to go to mainstream. So maybe it is not covered by our geeky media, but we might see, I don't know, commercials in TV, probably not. Maybe you can see some Washington Post or something like that go about that. I think that are going after Monopoly and these mass market things. I don't know if you watch the teasers, the videos, happy families, kids playing, like this, definitely aimed at the mass market audience, the whole movement. So I'm reading this news that way.
Very, very interesting. I look forward to seeing how they take this and where it ends up in the media, because that's obviously where it's got to go.
If you see in the future these in the mass market media, like in the newspapers, radio, TV, I guess we'll cover that.
Definitely.
That they go for these customers.
Definitely. All right, let's go on to our strategy and tactics segment. Oliver Fries, who's at Kaluga on Board Game Geek, I still observe that most board games are delivered without an insert. Hey, another insert question. Boy, man, these people love inserts. Could you please give your opinions on this? Is it mainly due to the increased production costs? What would be your reasons for not providing an insert? And what do you think is the context of existing suppliers of board games accessories and their solutions. So I think what he's saying is not they're delivered without a custom insert, because right, we talked about,
The
right, that's what
plastic
he
one.
means. Every game has got a cardboard thing. Inserts were made originally to keep the contents of the game safe, not to destroy itself in transport. That's the purpose of the regular insert. When you go to a custom insert, then it adds huge amounts of cost. If you're going to do a print where you don't know if the game is going to sell all that well, doing custom inserts is wildly expensive. So you'll notice, all right, so here's a good way of putting this. You'll notice that what games have custom inserts made by third parties? Well, it's all the popular ones, right? Well, why? Because you guys will go out and buy them to put into your games that either don't have a custom insert or they have one that's just not as good. So that's why it's done. If it's popular, maybe you can go out, maybe the manufacturer will go out and end up doing a custom insert. But most games, they just don't. They don't do it because it doesn't make sense economically. Simple as that.
And and if we may add, because last week we discussed the insert, so to add a little bit more knowledge once again to educate our fans. Not only is the case of the cost of the plastic insert, by additional work to design this insert. To design this insert, you need to know upfront every single piece of the game, every single dimension of the game. You have to hire somebody who will come up with the idea how to put all these pieces so they fit together. Like, this is weeks of work of designing the work, and your production manager is crying because he needs to deliver every single piece with every single dimensions. And then when the insert is done, you cannot add 2 more wooden cubes. You cannot add 2 more, wooden discs because something changed. It is done already. So only the very, very big production by big companies, they have this knowledge up front and prepare everything. For most of the geeky publishers, independent studios, it is too much work to prepare something upfront.
And I don't get it. And look, that's okay. A lot of people do get it. A lot of people love inserts. I do not buy inserts. I don't want a special insert. I don't see a need for a special insert. When I play a game, I take everything out of the box. I mean, I don't need to take it out, this piece here and this piece here. I just take it all out and then I put it all back. So I don't need one, and I'm not going to spend $50. I mean, for the really, really cool, like Broken Token ones that, that I can just go buy another game for that price. So if you like them and you want them, God bless, go get that really cool custom insert, but they're not for me. Sean Jones, who's at Themmer Sean.
The Mr. Sim.
The Mr. Sean. Okay, there we go. The Mr. Sean on Board Game Geek. Thank you for figuring that out. Hello, gentlemen. I know that IPs do a lot for the initial sales of a game and sometimes are the genesis of the game. But unless you spend large amounts of money on licensing to get something like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, etc., it seems to me you are for all practical purposes giving up longevity and certainly an evergreen if you go that route. Games like Firefly, BSG, The Expanse have dedicated fans, but there's no way to a reprint will ever occur without retheming. Even Star Wars licenses, The Queen's Gambit, have to be redone. I think you've got some incorrect assumptions in what you just said there, but we'll address that in a second. The question is it a good business model? Clearly, a popular IP will move some games, but after playing, licensing, and developing a game, you now have a dated item. Even 5 years later, most licenses won't drive sales. Is this short-term profit enough to justify the extra money and hassle in some cases involved? I understand the cold of the new, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Ignacy, first of all, let me mention that I think that the premise that he's using here, that a game with an IP will not sell over time. It's only the initial thing for the fans. I disagree with that, first of all. Let's take BSG. He mentions BSG, and people can see I have the entire BSG collection behind me, which are like very expensive. Tell me, you don't think that right now, if Fantasy Flight could reprint those games, they wouldn't? Oh, I guarantee they would. They don't have the license to do so anymore. because the license had a certain amount of time and they're not allowed to sell the game anymore, so they don't go back to it. Not every IP license will do that. Some will be ad infinitum, some will require a certain amount of minimum sales. There's many ways to do it. So you absolutely can have an evergreen with an IP on it. The first part of what you're saying, Sean, is that it's just very, very expensive to get them. And getting an IP on a game is not going to mean, by definition, it's going to be a success by any stretch of imagination. In fact, so many IP games have not been good in the past for various reasons. So, that's my take. It's not about like it won't become an evergreen. It's simply that it's not going to guarantee that. And certain games like Battlestar Galactica would certainly be an evergreen if Fantasy Flight was able to continue to print it. I assume that they're not able to. Ignacy?
Yeah. For me, first of all, excellent question. We never covered these topics. Sometimes we have so many questions about the same topic and we go over and over. This one is brand new, so kudos for that.
Thank you, Sean.
And for sure, I agree that there is so many famous examples in the industry of a great games that are not reprinted because the license went off. Chaos in the Old World, the famous Eric Lang's game. StarCraft from FFG, famous game that we all miss, and of course mentioned Battlestar Galactica. So if these companies kept the license, this game will be selling over and over and over again. But when you are by the license, when you have a contract, this contract at some point will expire. If both sides are happy, they will make it longer. But if some sides have different ideas for the future, they will not make the contract longer, and then you are done, and the game is done. And so I absolutely agree with Sean that on one hand, that would be awesome to have a very strong IP and have these amazing sales at the very beginning. But then if you create a great game like a StarCraft, like Chaos in the Old World, and then after these 3 or 4 or 5 years, you have to close the sales. You cannot reprint it anymore because the deal is done. It will be, of course, terrible for the publisher and for the designer. So if I imagine myself that, for example, I designed and I published the Detective in 2018, so it's 2 years ago. If I had a contract, for example, for 3 years, and that would mean that next year is my only year with Detective, I would be crying here out loud, yes, sure. Because it would be so painful. So yes, the IP is a very tricky thing. I absolutely agree. They give a ton of attention from the geeks if you have a good IP. But then you might end up with this legendary StarCraft never reprinted because we have no longer license.
Right, but yeah, but the point that he was making, he believes that the game becomes dated after a while, and it's you're not going to be able to sell it. That's not correct in both of our opinions. If StarCraft could be produced right now, if BSG could be produced right now, if Queen's Gambit could be produced right now, all of them would sell quite a bit. Yep. But they can't. The license has gone back to the original licensee. All right. Anthony N., who is Tunkers 303, he asks, what are your thoughts, pros, cons on publishers that use in-house designers only versus publishers that publish games that fit into their lineup style of games, no matter the designer? Ignacy?
I don't think there is many publishers who on purpose publish games only by in-house designers or only through the hired designers. Like, of course, my company Portal Games is doing mostly the games that we develop here in-house because we have a very strong development team. But sometimes we get the game from the other designer and we publish it, so there's no rule here. And I guess if Stephen is still working for Stronghold Games, and if Paul Incano comes with a brilliant game, we would publish it, of course. We would not say, hey, Paul, go somewhere else, because I'm publishing only from somebody who is not hired by me. So we are publishing what we have the best. If we have a great game, we publish it, no matter if it is designed in-house or out.
Right. And the big companies, Asmodee, Simon, they have lots of people that are on staff. That's what they do 100% of their day. So they're going to do less stuff that's brought to them just by definition. That's sort of it. So the bigger you get, the more you're going to do in-house because you have those people in-house. The second tier companies, the guys that are a little smaller, some Stuff goes on in-house and stuff goes outside.
At
So it
at
just goes
this
back and forth.
Yes, at this point at Portal Games, I have 3 developers full time hired, and me being like
Sure.
the chief of the whole team of developers. So we are like Steven said, medium size. Like so, every year I can produce couple of products designed by this development team because they're working all day long on the new expansions and new games. And yes, I still looking for the games that are designed by other designers that we can sign and publish.
Very good. Jay Atkinson, who spells his name with a little "at" in it, very cute, who's JG Atkinson on Board Game Geek. What is your biggest challenge getting started in the industry as a publisher? How did you overcome it? What is the biggest challenge you face now? Well, Ignacy, please tell us. What was your biggest challenge you faced when you
Funny,
started? Had you overcome it? And what's the current biggest challenges?
Funny enough, back then, 20 years ago, and today, the biggest challenge is the distribution. Back then, when I was starting in Poland, a year 1999, no industry whatsoever. I was this just geek dreaming about creating games. So there was like I don't know 20 maybe less stores in the whole Poland, and no ways to sell games in a bookstores in a mass market. So I was just trying to sell games. No internet back then. So distribution was not existing. I was building in from the scratch, finding new stores, finding new places to distribute the game, going to conventions, selling, directly. So there was no existing distribution, and I was fighting hard, working hard to slowly help the industry grow in Poland and build this distribution. And what's the biggest challenge today? Distribution. The market is crowded. There is so many titles released. We talk about this every single podcast. The distributors have so many sell sheets on their desk. There's so many releases every single week. So yeah, reaching the retailer, reaching the customer, reaching the distributor, reaching the sales team of these distributors is very difficult these days because there's so many titles releasing every single day.
So I will say that back when Stronghold Games started, it's a very similar answer to yours. The biggest problem was getting your games noticed. The biggest problem now is getting your games noticed.
Yep.
It's just a slightly different way that it occurs now. Back then, you were a brand new company. Why should I go? Who is this guy? I don't know, Stronghold Games. Who is this? What do I want to buy this? So we brought out games that were in demand. So people took the chance on us. Now there's 2,000 games that come out per year, probably more. Getting yourself noticed above all the noise is the biggest problem. It will continue to be in the current circumstances. All right, with that, we're going to go to our playtesting segment where we question you. All right, this week is a Podfather question. By the way, before I even do that, I want to taunt Ignacy with my cat mug here. I'm showing everybody.
I have enough cats at home. Thank you so much.
Everybody can tune in and watch us on my YouTube channel and see that I have this beautiful cat mug here. Ignacy, like Tom Vassell, they don't like cats. It's terrible.
I don't approve this cup.
He does not approve of my coffee mug. Anyway, so this week is a question that I ask. We go back and forth with our playtesting segment. And as people probably know, one of the things I really love is party games. I'm a huge social person. So my question to you, Ignacy, what's your favorite obscure party game? Like everyone will say, like most people say Codenames, because Codenames is just so good and it plays like almost any number of players. It's brilliant, and then there's the Wits and Wagers, and there's these games that are just iconic for party games and they work so well. But do you have a party game that you really love that is a little obscure that you might want to mention?
The game that is maybe under the radar for most of the geeks, I would go with the game Crazy Time. Did you hear about this?
I do not know this game, no.
So this is obscure. Crazy Time, the game I found out when I was visiting Switzerland for brag moment for getting the award for the Robinson Crusoe back then in 2013. And there was, of course, games room. I played with the people games, and I found this game Crazy Time. It reminds a little bit of the Jungle Speed in terms of the mechanics. Like you are flipping the card, you need to do something. In the middle, there is a thing that you have to reach at some point. So like a Jungle Speed, but super fun with some twist. It's like a Jungle Speed for the geeks. you need to do some additional things. Very fun game. The designer of this game, as you can read from the box, is Alex at Guitar. And at the very beginning, I thought it is his name. Then I learned that it means Alex with guitar because it is his pseudonym. So there was a quite confusion. We bought Polish rights for the game. We released this game in Poland. We had a great time at conventions. The game did not have a success in Poland. I don't know why. Probably the cover was terrible. Jungle Speed was too strong in Poland. And so the game is in my collection. I played it sometimes. So if you are looking for the very niche game, if you want to have a gem in your collection, go to eBay, go to different places where you can buy niche games and crazy time jungle speed style game. Very, very fun.
So what I'm going to go with is a game that got a lot of bad press when people started seeing the pictures because of the theme, but it's really themeless. The game is called Powwow. And it's a game where you put a headband on and you put a number in your head.
It's amazing, but it's not obscure. I know it. It's not obscure.
Well, okay, it's not absolutely obscure, but I guarantee that a lot of people here have not played it. It is an amazing party game, 8 players, but Native Americans, some will say it's culturally insensitive.
I get it now. Yes, I understand. Yes.
So, I was actually playing with people who have Native American backgrounds on Saturday. I just was playing it on Saturday. And I said, does this in any way? And one of the guys actually looked up. He goes, oh my God, the things they say about this game. And I'm like, well, does it offend? And I, pointed to a couple of people. Does it offend you? They're like, no, it's about numbers and it doesn't matter. So if you are sensitive to it, okay. I don't say you shouldn't be. You should be what you feel, and that's important. Yep. But if you don't mind playing a game where you're putting their feather, they look like feathers, you're putting them in your headband, and there's a number or a multiplication or a maximum number is equal to 0, and you basically you can't see what's on your head, but you can see everybody else's, and you have to say a number that is lower than or equal to the total after all the math is done. At some point, somebody is going to challenge the person. And if they challenge it and the number still is lower, they get like a mark against them. If they challenge it and it was over, it was a successful challenge, the other person who said the number gets a mark. It's always laughing, always fun. A little bit of light math you have to do, but it's like ridiculously light. And it's just silly, fun, ridiculous, great party game. Check out Powwow if you ever get a chance. And by the way, right now, since it is out of print, it's like $200, and it's like it's just a bunch of like little tokens and stuff like that. You can't find it anymore because
I played it the last time at the Dice Tower Con.
Oh, did you? Okay, good. So people are still playing it in public. Yep. Okay, good. Excellent, fantastic game. All right. Ignacy right now is creating a thread. Yeah, no, he forgot already. He forgot because now I'm reminding him. He's creating a thread on Board Game Geek for this question because we're asking you guys to please put your answer to what is your favorite obscure party game. It doesn't have to be too obscure because people do know Powwow. Obviously, Ignacy does. But what's your favorite party game that's not like one of the really, really, really big hits? And let us know, and we'll talk about it in our Guild on Board Game Geek. And now, let's move to the final scoring. Thank you all so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts. To ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment, you must post them in the correct thread in our Guild on Board Game Geek. To answer our question to you for our playtesting segment, also go to our Guild on Board Game Geek and look for the thread with this episode's question. Board Games Insider has a Facebook page, so please like us on Facebook. Also on Facebook, please like Ignacy's page. Hopefully he gets it all straightened out. And Stephen's page /Portal Publishing /Podfather Gaming. Our websites are portalgames.pl, portalgamesus.com, and podfathergaming.com. Please go there, sign up for the newsletter, and find out up-to-the-minute information on what's happening at Portal Games and with the Podfather. On social media, you can speak directly to Ignacy and Stephen on Twitter @PortalGamesUS and @PodfatherGaming. And on Instagram, it's the same. And YouTube, it's Portal Game Movies and the Podfather of Gaming. Board Games Insider was professionally edited by Matthew Jude from This Game is Broken podcast. If you'd like him to edit your podcast, please contact him on Twitter or email at thisgameisbrokenpodcast@gmail.com. Ignacy, we've come to the end. We've come to any special news or any special words of wisdom that you would like to tell our listeners now.
I don't have a special news, but I would like to make a, I don't know, with a statement or a message or whatever, but hey guys, this is the last virtual convention, the big one, Essen Spiel. So check it out. Like, go there. If you don't like it, log out. You don't need to spend the whole weekend, but just to appreciate the work that was put in this organizing this convention. And I know, because I'm in the touch of the organizers, they did amazing work preparing everything for you guys. So at least check it out. Go visit some booths, visit some websites, check 1 or 2 streams. If you don't like it, of course, spend the time. But let's respect the work that was done to prepare this amazing convention.
Yeah.
And let's keep fingers crossed that everybody will be at least enjoying it a bit.
Yeah, and of course, you'll be able to see what the newest games coming out, be able to buy some games from certain publishers who are allowing you to do that. Hey, and you reminded me just now, I'm doing something I just found out for Spiel Digital.
Perfect.
I am going to be singing. Yes, I'm going to be singing on Board Game Geek in their coverage of this. Actually, you know what? It's not for the Spiel. Oh, I forgot. It's not for Spiel. It's going to be for their virtual con in November. So it's not that, but I will be singing there. They're going to be doing a rock band, and they've invited a bunch of people to do the vocal tracks on some of the rock band stuff, and I'm going to be doing that. So yeah, I told you about that. It's a little, but I will be hanging out at Spiel Digital. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Everybody out there, good talking to you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.